First, logging is still a contentious issue. As you drive down to Bermagui along the Wallaga Lake Road, the entrance to the tourist town is framed by a stand of trees known as the Cathedral. Some locals say the trees are under threat, and earlier this week, protesters gathered to draw attention to timber harvesting. They say that Forests New South Wales has breached logging conditions, a claim denied by the loggers. Adam Shirley took the drive south to investigate.
This is the entryway to our town. These trees are a signature tree of the south coast and particularly Bermagui.
It's such a magnificent entrance to this wonderful area.
It is an area that we really need to harvest to meet the timber supply commitments for southern New South Wales.
Bermagui is a picturesque fishing and tourist hamlet that lies on the south coast about 3.5 hours drive from Canberra. But the peaceful ambience is currently being disturbed by a stoush over a well-known stand of trees that sits on the town's northern entrance.
Well, we're standing in the Cathedral of Trees now, and from the entry to Bermagui, right where the town sign is, all the way around the curve there, which is in amounts of acres. But forestry, of course, have squeezed that and squeezed it until it's smaller and smaller.
A large part of the dispute is over how big the area of the cathedral, comprising spotted gums, actually is. Daniel Tuan is the Southern Region Manager for Forests New South Wales, which is overseeing a logging operation in Bermagui State Forest.
In this area of the forest, we're harvesting around about 250 hectares. Of the overall area in the whole of Bermagui State Forest, it would be probably around 1,000 hectares, but we're harvesting around about 250 hectares in this harvesting event. In the area that you drive into on the edge of the township, it was basically deemed as being the area of the highest amenity value to the community, and we've agreed to exclude all harvesting from that very entrance.
Is it enough? Are the local residents happy with that?
Look, it is a hard thing to gauge exactly what all the community wants. We're aiming to satisfy the majority of the community. There are some elements of the community that will not be satisfied with that will be aiming for us not to harvest at all in Bermagui State Forest.
They keep telling the local population that the cathedral will be saved, but their perception of the cathedral is a very tiny patch right down near the very beginning of the town. Forestry have decided themselves, in spite of what the town has always thought of as the cathedral, they have decided that it is in fact only a tiny fraction of that.
The logs out of this area they're largely going down to the sawmill down in Eden for saw logs, which are going to be used for building and other furniture products. And then the residue off the heads of those or the twisty pieces of those logs actually go down to the chip mill down in Eden as well for pulpwood.
This is the third time in 80 years that the forest around Bermagui has been logged. Daniel Tuan says the current operation is sustainable and that Forests New South Wales is confident wildlife here won't be significantly affected.
We only harvest around about 50% of all the trees, and it's over the range of sizes. So we're leaving the representative of what was here, but about 50% of that. In the lead up to this operation, we have to do the surveys over the whole of the area that will be harvested. We have a range of the conditions that we have to meet under our regulations. There's one of those instruments which is the Threatened Species Licence, which we have to do surveys in advance of operations, and there were no records of those species in here in the lead up to this harvesting event.
It is only a juvenile forest. It's much too young to log again, and it will take hundreds of years to recover its integrity. The other main concerns are the remnant koala populations that through Forest New South Wales' own surveys have been found in these forests. On one side we have the Flora and Fauna Reserve, which is a very delicate swamp, home to all sorts of endangered creatures.
We actually have to monitor that as the harvesting is undertaken. And we have to keep a lookout for those species as we go through.
A young forest, a juvenile forest, does not support wildlife in the same way as a mature forest. It does not store carbon in the same way as a mature forest, and it does not create water in the same way as a mature forest.
Local environmentalist Suzanne Folkes says there hasn't been enough community consultation to decide which parts of the forest to cut down. She believes Forest New South Wales is ignoring the significance of the area to local Indigenous groups.
They were in court only last year for logging a gazetted Aboriginal place on Mumble Mountain, which was gazetted in 1984. We all knew about it, the community knew about it, but they went and logged it anyway. And everybody ended up in court. And they lost, of course. Now, this is basic malpractice. They have to know where those heritage areas are. And after that lesson, one would have thought that they would have, as they are obliged to do under the regional forest agreements, they would have liaised with the Biomunga Board of Management and the Mumbler Board of Management. They did not.
In the lead up to the commencement of any of the harvesting in Bermagui, we spoke to a range of the neighbours and the other community groups, the local government, the Aboriginal organisations. We spoke to a range of the representative groups of the community.
The Bermagui community seems divided on whether cutting down parts of the state forest adversely affects the beauty and tourist appeal of the town.
Everybody I know that lives here is absolutely appalled by what they're doing. And it's not really an issue of whether you're for or against logging. It's the way that they treat us as the local community with, I think, with contempt. They don't listen to what we say. I mean, it's not just activists that are complaining about this, it's most of the people that live here. Tourism's our biggest income source, far more important than forestry.
As long as it's controlled, you know, and we don't go silly with our logging, but it definitely does need clearing. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't, and I don't think anyone that's coming to Bermagui is coming to visit our state forest. I believe they're coming to visit the harbour, they're coming to visit the beaches, and they're coming to do a bit of fishing.
As the tug-of-war continues over where the cathedral is and what the consequences of removing the spotted gums are, the logging program pushes on.
It is only a thinning event, and it really is a healthy forest that will recover after we do that thinning event. It's not destroying the forest. It doesn't mean that the forest disappears. You will certainly see that the forest is still here for years to come after this harvesting event, and it's not affected in the long term.
I'm confident that there's really a lot of people that are concerned. I mean, we stand out there on the highway now with our vigil, and I'd say that 8 out of 10 cars that passes us gives us a wave and a toot. There are letters to the paper every week. Thousands of people have written to the premiers because they are educated people who are aware of the importance of natural biodiversity in the 21st century.